Hello, welcome to the Kimbley IT podcast. My name's Kyle and I'm hosting the podcast this week. Not something that I normally do. This is normally done by James. He introduces this and then introduces me, but I'm doing it. I'm the radical director of Kimbley IT and I want to introduce our founder, James. James, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And as you know, we record this using Google Hangouts and we're using the new closed caption.
Yes, we are.
Captioning system. And it's actually just called you the medical director of Kimbley IT.
It did.
So that is your new job title as we have to go along with it.
It's saying medical director now, but I did say radical director. So we see if you see it's got radical on the captioning the second time. It's very good, this.
You need to update your LinkedIn profile. The rules are whatever title you get given is what you are. So you're now the medical director of Kimbley IT.
I'll have to update LinkedIn later on. Well, we're back after a bank holiday weekend, and that's where we're going to start in this week's podcast with our bank holiday weekends. I had a bit of a different weekend to you. We both did a family thing. However, James went travelling on his bank holiday weekend down to Cornwall.
Yeah, that wasn't a travelling that I went to. I went travelling.
Yeah, you went travelling.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying travelling.
I am. I'm saying that you went travelling.
Yes, I know, but not the... I know what you're saying.
Yes.
But the audio sounds like a travelling hotel. Yeah, I went to
Cornwall. How was Cornwall?
Very hot.
Okay.
Very, very hot. It was actually that hot that it felt like you were maybe somewhere in the Mediterranean.
It was pretty nice in Shropshire as well.
Yep. In Cornwall, you can actually get quite confused that your brain after a while can accept that you're not even in England because it's such a different area of the country. There's no motorways. A lot of the stuff is down single-laned roads.
Yep.
Houses are like few and far between, little villages around the place. They're normally painted white rather than what we're used to in cities. And it does really feel like you're in a foreign country. And then you've got the black and white flag, the black flag with the white cross that they fly everywhere as well, the Cornish flag. Yeah,
it's interesting how if you go over to France from there as well into Brittany is very similar to Cornwall.
I don't mind single lane country lanes when we're around the West Midlands because there aren't any traffic on them. But in Cornwall, there's traffic on these single lane motorways and single lane country lanes. And that becomes a bit difficult when you're always bumping into people coming the other way. So we got stuck about 20 minutes or so down a single lane road because some plonker decided to drive a double-decker bus down a single lane country lane. And the guy I was following in front was in a transit van.
Right.
So you can work out how well that went. Not very well at all for 20 minutes.
So someone had to back up.
Well, they managed to squeeze each other past each other, and I was behind the transit van, so I pulled in behind the transit van. And then this plonker behind decides, I'm going to follow me through and block the road completely. And then another car comes in, so it's a complete mess, and people have to do reversing and all this kind of stuff to clear the road so we can get on our way.
Fancy taking a double-decker bus down a single-track road. What an idiot.
Yeah. I don't know what it was doing because there's loads of signs up there saying not suitable for HGVs. There's no turning spaces, no turning lanes or whatever they call them, or side lanes to go down. Plenty of signs out there. And I know a bus isn't classed as a HGV, but, it's the same thing when it comes to a single country lane road.
Yes, it is indeed.
Apart from that, I have no technology really to talk about. Apart from Foursquare. You remember Foursquare?
Yep.
Foursquare hit its peak around about 2012, 2013. And then I used to use Foursquare a lot back in those days. And I stopped using it probably around about end of 2014, 2015, because it was going quiet. But when I was in Cornwall, I thought, what, I'll stick Foursquare back on and see what it can suggest to me, because I didn't think Google Maps suggestions were that great. And I know Foursquare used to be really fantastic at finding hidden places, especially hidden restaurants and things like that people don't really know about.
Right.
I installed it and it is dead. That app is totally and utterly dead.
All right.
No, I went to the places I was visiting. I went and checked them on Foursquare, and people hadn't left any tips for like 3 or 4 years. Totally and utterly empty. That app is. It died. They used to have it used to be gamified, where you could become a mayor of an area or a building when you checked in enough times. So there's a bit of competition in there. And then back in 2013, 2014 time, they split it into 2 apps, one called Swarm, which is the check-in gamifying one. And then you had Foursquare, which had all the tips and stuff on it. And after that split, it just killed the brand completely, killed it, because there There was no incentive to go on it because there's no gamification. And no one wants two apps when it used to all be in one app anyway. So Foursquare didn't get any tips because people just stopped using it. And yeah, it's dead now. I'm surprised it's still around.
I'd completely forgotten about it until you mentioned it. It wasn't something that crossed my mind that anyone would use anymore. And I do remember seeing people check in on it all the time.
It was fantastic because I remember using it when I went to Venice, and I used it over in New York, and it was really, really great at discovering places. But in the UK, for sure, it's dead. I don't know if it's still being used in the US or not, but in the UK, Foursquare's dead as it comes.
Yeah, I looked on Twitter when you mentioned that earlier on, and it appears that they're continuing with stuff in the US. So maybe in the US it still has a relevance.
Yeah, apparently they have a lot of data because I think it's just people who've left Foursquare installed on their phones and don't use it anymore. They have a lot of real-time data of venues and things like that. So the company is actually quite a profitable company.
Yes,
but on the business side of things, giving business this data. But at a point that's going to end if no one's using your app. You need that to collect the data.
Yeah, if only because people are going to go through phones and not reinstall that app, and then eventually you'll just lose it.
Yep.
Okay, well that's your only tech thing from the weekend then. The rest of it, you were shut down off tech.
Well, I wasn't shut down off it, but I just didn't experiment with any tech or didn't have time to.
Okay. I didn't experiment with any tech either. I spent most of my weekend in the back garden with my girls and paddling pools and things like that in the sunshine, which is very nice.
Yeah, a lot of it was just in the swimming pool for us.
Yeah, very good. Right, week in hand. So we're now looking at what we got in our week in hand at the moment and the leads that we've got coming through. And it's been quite interesting, James, some of the leads that have been coming through to the business over the last week or so, particularly coming from LinkedIn on my side. I've noticed. Go on.
I've got one that has literally just come in about half an hour before we started this on a LinkedIn one as well.
Okay.
Which I'll be arranging a video call later this week with the person.
Yeah, I found that because one of the people that I engage with on LinkedIn is a guy who offers coaching and consulting into the electrical industry to people who've got electrical contracting businesses. And the algorithm, as you would expect, has suddenly put me in front of a few of those. So I've had a few conversations with people who run those businesses of electricians. So that's another service-based industry. And also VAs, virtual assistants. And I think it's a combination of an existing customer of ours and one or two comments I've made on some posts, but I've been connected to by about 6 virtual assistants in the last 4 days.
I've had a few of those come through as well.
And they've all commented on comments. Like I've had a conversation with everyone I've connected with. You know, they've done the thing where it's not just a random, oh, they've followed me and lurked. These people have commented on a comment I've made. It's been interesting how you can see the algorithm sort of thinking, right, okay, Kyle talks to people who are virtual assistants. Let's show him more virtual assistants. And then that begets more virtual assistants and so forth.
Well, this is how LinkedIn works for us because we specialize so much in what we do. We're so specific in that it's G Suite and it's not Microsoft. And we all notice when you go on LinkedIn and someone's asking for help on Microsoft, everyone comes out of the woodwork to help them. All the worms wiggle out and want to comment on those posts to help people and get the business and try and get the business and promote themselves. But when you see a post about someone needing help with G Suite, no one's there.
Yeah, I know you've seen a couple of those yourself, and there's no answers to those. I hadn't specifically commented on G Suite in any of the things that I was talking about. Really, it was commentary on people's posts about life, but it's got me having conversations with them, and that's good to have conversations because actually virtual assistants are very likely to benefit from what G Suite can bring to you because they're going to be all about efficiency.
As you know, I've been having a bit of a viral streak on LinkedIn at the moment with a video and then a post that hit over 7,000 views and many comments. So I'm getting quite a bit of traction, and I kind of worked something out over the weekend. So I did play around with LinkedIn, but know how a lot of people just post stuff that's business and they want to get something out of it, or they're promoting something, or it's just business sense. So I put a photo up of Land's End where I went to, just a picture of Land's End. All the comment was Land's End #Cornwall.
Yep.
And what that enabled me was I got quite a few likes on that, and I could see that okay, these people clearly are interested in what I posted because they haven't blocked me from their feed or unfollowed me. Hence the reason they're seeing this picture. They're liking the picture, so I then now know that anything else I post is also going to go into their feed. So it gave me a bit of insight as to which people are following me, which ones are interested in what I'm saying.
That makes a lot of sense, James.
Well, I hope it does. I hope you're not just saying that to make me happy.
No, I'm not saying that to make you happy. You know that I wouldn't say something to make you happy.
I know
I
that
wouldn't
for
say
sure.
anything to make you unhappy either. But I'm not going to give you platitudes.
That's good. Well,
I've
medical
posted
director.
personal things. I've posted either personal things or a little something that's comedic, just to come. And yeah, people like it because they get it. So you get a connection.
Yeah.
I was discussing peanut butter and Marmite with somebody this weekend on LinkedIn, and it's a silly conversation. But you know what? At the end of it, we both said it was great because we got to talk to each other.
Yeah, and it gives you an insight of who's getting involved and viewing your conversations. The one thing that annoys me is when you get people who haven't got a clue what they're talking about. So, as you know, on Sunday night, I got tagged into a post.
Yes, you did.
And it was about G Suite, and it was some Microsoft guy claiming that Microsoft 365 is vastly more secure than G Suite. So I go, okay, how is it more secure? Couldn't come back with an answer.
No, he didn't actually give you. He did ask him outright, and he didn't say X, Y, Z. Not even trying to win you with facts.
No, he just battered around the thing, the side of it, and went on about Windows and some software called Intune, which is even part of Office 365. Intune's a separate bit of software. It doesn't come with 365 as far as I'm aware.
No, it doesn't. Intune's not part of 365.
It's essentially a mobile management system, which you've got that in G Suite anyway. So
you got hooked into when you sent it to me, and I was like, "There's no point going in this post. This is a load of tech people having a bicker with each other. Not where I want to be."
Yeah, so when his comments came back that were just we're just confirming how much he did not understand about what he was talking about, I backed off and didn't bother replying again. I went to the Eden project, by the way. I just found my passes in my back pocket.
Yeah, I saw you went to that.
It's good. The Eden project is.
Yes.
Got a little jungle biodome and a Mediterranean biodome. Jungle biodome is good, but you're sweaty by the time you come out of that place.
Yeah,
really humid,
reproducing the temperatures of the jungle.
Yeah, really humid, really hot. And then you walk into the Mediterranean side, and normally the Mediterranean side I find hot, but because I've just come out of the jungle and gone into the Mediterranean, this was super cool. So much so I had to put my hoodie back on.
Wow. Even on the hottest of the summer days, you've still got your hoodie.
Well, I've got my Kimbley hoodie on and my Kimbley t-shirt, so always have fun. And I've got the Kimbley cap as well.
Yeah, I don't have one of those.
No, but yeah, always advertising. And you never know when a computer might break down.
You certainly don't, James. No.
Always prepared.
So that's our little thing on LinkedIn and the leads that we've had through there. And tomorrow I am off to Derbyshire to visit one of our newest clients, Daniel, who runs an electrical contracting business. I'm off to see him up in Derby tomorrow. And Thursday, someone who I'm very sure will become a customer of ours very, very shortly. She's coming with me to a Toastmasters speaking club in Birmingham. I'm going to New Street Speakers on Thursday night. And my friend is coming along to join him. She's left the corporate world and she's set up on her own as a consultant. And she knows that G Suite's the right way to go. She also wants to improve her public speaking. And I suggested Toastmasters would be a good place for her to start. What else have you got planned this week, James?
Actually, I was just on Google Maps then, just seeing if I was going to come along to your meeting tomorrow. Gate crash. Seeing the distance.
Yeah.
It's an hour away.
It's only an hour for you, is it? Okay.
It's not Derby. It's just past. It's near Derby, but it's not actually Derby.
It's Derbyshire.
Yeah. Well, like the very border of Derbyshire.
Oh, that's good then. Not so far.
Barely entering it. It's equidistance between Tamworth and Derby.
The Hepworth. Yes, because it's Swaddling Coke. So I was going to go to the chap's
Burton on Trent, it's quite close to.
Yeah, he wanted to go and meet up somewhere else. So that's probably why it's not as far. In my mind, it was originally going to be his office, which is in Derby.
Yeah, he's come a bit of the way to see you, and you're going a lot of the way to see him.
That's right.
Cool.
But it's he'd been working in Iraq. So we actually did the discovery call and the agreement and everything while he was in Iraq and set it all up. So he's been back in the UK, so it's the first chance to see him.
Yeah, it's good, interesting way to do a discovery call. First, that's definitely a first for Kimbley IT.
It went really well. They had good broadband in the desert.
It's the only thing they had good in the desert.
Yes. Right. There's something that we've been quite excited about over the last few months that has now come to fruition.
So excited that we forgot to talk about it last week when we were doing our Next 19 review.
That's right. Well, there's quite a lot to it. So we figured it might be worthwhile having its own section and its own focus, and that's Google Voice.
Don't pretend that we planned this. We did completely forget about it. There was no planning that we were going to give it its own show, but we have now.
He's blown the cover out of the water there. The show could have gone on. It doesn't matter anyway. We're going to talk about Google Voice and what's very much different about Google Voice to any other way of making your phone calls in your business. James, can you summarize what's so important about Google Voice?
Google Voice has been around for about a decade. So it's not new to the VoIP services around the world. It's been in the US, though. It's been limited to the US and consumers only. What's changing is, as of 2019, that Google Voice is a business version is now coming out, which is going to be part of G Suite. And it's going to have some really interesting ties into G Suite, such as Google Calendar, Google Email, and other features of G Suite, which has never had before.
Yep.
It's great for businesses, in my opinion, in that everything is controlled via G Suite. You can easily assign numbers. You can have auto attendants on there. Auto attendants are where you press 1 for sales, press 2 for marketing, etc. Those kind of things. And there's more features coming to it, such as hunt groups. So pretty much everything you get in a normal VoIP system is coming to Google Voice. But it's 100% cloud-based. It's 100% controlled by you. It's not having to mess around with silly SIP lines, well, you need for installation, or IP addresses or port forwarding on your routers to get things working. Get your desktop phones working, all just plugs in. So desktop phone, all you do is enter your MAC address and that's it, set up for you. No fiddling around with IP addresses or networking issues. It just works.
Yes, indeed. What gets me super excited, and to bring this down to a very basic level, is Google Voice will replace you having to have a phone system in your business. Whether that is for years and years, you had to have a phone system, you had to have a physical object that was your phone system, or over the last couple of years, you might have had a cloud-based telephone system, which meant you had a contract with a telecoms provider for X number of years, including support and maintenance and upgrade and lines and all of these things that you had to have in order to have a telephone system that people would ring you, you could ring them, you could have voicemail and transfer phone calls. All of that is changing. Google Voice enables you to have a phone system that operates off your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, or your mobile phone. Whichever the ones you've got the app open on, it's working. You can ring on one, ring on the other. And it means you don't need a phone system anymore, and you don't have to have a contract with another telecoms company to have a phone system in your business. James has been trying it out for us for the last month or so, and you set up a phone number that comes through. It's on our website. You phone that number, and then the phone call can choose whether to come to James or to me. And likewise, we can both call out with Birmingham phone numbers.
And this is the reason. So Google Voice is so advanced that we are able to put our own telephone numbers in our auto attendant. So when you call the Kimbley IT number, first option will be to go through to IT support. The second option will be you can talk to Carl if you press 2. 3, you can press James. We can actually put that on our main telephone number and not worry about getting spam calls, because it's spam protection as good as what you get in Gmail. It really protects you from the junk calls. Ever since we've turned that on, our junk calls have just vanished. We used to get loads and loads of junk calls going through to our call answering system, and we'd get emails, 5-6 emails per day of junk sales phone calls that have come through. Since we've flicked to Google Voice, they've totally gone because the spam protection has just filtered those out. The real cool thing with it as well is when I can essentially ask somebody to leave their name before I pick up the phone. So say if you give me a call, whoever you are, you're going to have to, it will ask you who's calling and you have to give the name. So I'm Bob from XYC company and I want to talk to you. I keep saying Z instead of Z, and that's because of all the bloody kids' YouTube videos that I've been watching with my daughter. So XYZ company. And then it will ring my phone. I'll answer my phone. It will announce the person who's calling, and it will say, do you want to talk to the person or not? I can say, yes, I want to talk to the person. It'll put them through. I can say no. That will then put them through to voicemail, and I can listen to them leaving a voicemail in real time, and I can hit the star at any point to jump into that call if I want to. So I can properly filter and view my messages before I have to get distracted and get involved with a phone call, which you can't do on an existing VoIP system at all.
No, you're absolutely right. You can't do any of that. What's been so amazing with this is the fact that this is all configurable through your G Suite admin control panel.
Yep.
That there's going to be a fixed rate per user per month. So you're going to understand where your costs are very easily. You're not going to have an ongoing long-term contract. You don't have to have any kit installed in your office. As James said, you don't have to have any configuration on your internet connection router, port forwarding, some of these technical things. None of that has to be done. And you can get regional phone numbers so that you can have a phone number that is local to where your business is.
Yeah, and there's a way that you can have it so users can have multiple numbers. So say, for example, you've got a user that's traveling. Maybe you've got two offices. He's traveling between your Birmingham office and we've got a client that's got an office over in the States. So that user could have a local 0121 number, and they could also have an equivalent American number as well assigned to them.
Yep.
Assigning a number is super simple. You put somebody in, generates a number. You don't like the number, pick another number. Really, really easy to do. The auto attendant is fantastic. So in the past, you normally have to have a voice, someone record it. So I've heard it where you've had the MD who's gone on there and he's recorded, press 1, press 2, press 3. We've got it where clients have got someone in their office to go and record all the options for this.
Yep.
With Google Voice, it's using Google Voice's AI and it's text to voice recognition. So you type in what you want in the auto attendant, you then pick the voice that you want, and that's the voice you're going to have, and it's going to automatically say what you've just typed in as the options. So you don't need to pay for a voiceover artist or force somebody in your office to record all these messages for you. It's all done for you automatically.
And you don't need then to give that message to your technical support people from your telecoms company to put it into your phone system for you or some similar thing to that.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with a telecoms company, which is probably the biggest bonus out of the lot of them, because we all know telecoms companies are just cowboys, really.
Yeah. And if you think about, I want to roll back slightly to something you said earlier on, James, because it's really important. You talked about the spam protection, and listeners might be thinking, what's he on about? This isn't email. I don't get what James is talking about. But if we give a little example, Kimbley IT is James and I, and we can often be traveling or working with a client, and therefore answering the phone whenever it rings and not knowing who it is not a primary focus for us because it will distract us from what we do best. So we used to employ an answering service. So if we couldn't take the call, it went to an answering service. A human being answered the call, took a message, and then sent it to us via email to say who it was. And as James said, we used to get 5 to 6 of those a day from Mr. Dave of Dave Recruitment, just checking in, somebody from sales vendor A with a firewall checking in to see whether we were going to buy this product. Loads of sales calls come through to us. And we were paying for this service. It cost us X amount per month to have this company answer the phone for us. Since we've switched over to Google Voice, am I right with this, James? I've not seen any of these sales calls come through. No one's come to me.
Zero of these common sales calls and sales tactics because Google has the data.
No.
Google, as we all know, owns Android. No, it gets access to the data on the voice, your telephone dialer app, so it can see all the incoming calls that people are receiving globally. And it can, inside Android, you have an option to block a phone or block a number or mark it as spam. So they're getting this real-time information back from all these users that, hey, this 0845 number or 800 number that keeps calling is a spam number. A vast majority of people are marked it as spam, so they've automatically go, okay, this is a spam number. We're going to filter it out and stick it into your Google Voice spam area. So you can check it if you want to, but why would you? Because using Gmail for years, it's never really given me a false positive. You sometimes get them, but it's so rare and far between. It's really not that interesting.
Well, you know what? Even if there was a false positive, it isn't important anymore, because let's say somebody does phone and there's a false positive. There's so many other ways they could get hold of you.
Exactly.
It's genuine that it doesn't matter.
I've had one spam call in there, and it's from the 12th of April at 12:21 p.m.
That is not only have we've saved money because now we don't have to use an answering phone service. So that saved us hard cash every month for our business.
And it saved us time
looking at the messages and going, is that junk? I know it only took a few seconds to go. Yes, it is. But nevertheless, that's still time we had to spend deciding it.
Time is money.
I don't even have to think about it. Peace of mind. And this seems really important to me for your smaller independent consultants, really small businesses who get bogged down in this kind of rubbish. Now they can have a phone number and have some peace of mind and protection from all these bad numbers.
It also backs up my video from a few weeks ago that was very controversial about cold calling being dead. When you've got spam protections like this built in, it's going to filter out cold calling because it's going to recognize the numbers.
Well, I know we're talking about voice at the moment, and we still have to have phone calls, and James, you and I still have phone calls. Phone calls have their place. But what this is looking to me is, do you remember, James, in the office when people used to get junk faxes? Do you remember that point in history when the fax machine wouldn't stop printing off junk faxes?
Always got very lucky and it never happened where places I were at.
Several places I used to work at, they just get constant ones for leases on cars and things like that just coming through because they were just sent to the numbers randomly. And what did that end up with? It ended up people with eventually just ditching the fax, just turning it off, getting rid of it. They didn't use the thing. And that's kind of where the voice phone calls are going to go more and more. It'll just disappear because these Google voice calls, although we're having a voice call, it's all over data and it's really an extension of the tools you're using, because I can go into the Google chat and then I can click on the link and just make a call to you and your contacts, my contacts in G Suite or my contacts in Google Voice.
Well, one of the key things with this is that it completely eliminates a phone call from being a distraction, because I can send someone to a voicemail and I can listen to that voicemail as they're talking, and then I can then decide to jump in if I want to, or just leave it as a voicemail. And that's the key. That gets rid of the distraction. A phone call is just a distraction. If you pick it up and you don't know who's calling, and then you've got to deal with that because you might be busy working away on something else, you've got to break that line of concentration to deal with the person who you're talking to. Now you can filter all those messages out. All those distracting calls can be filtered out, and you can administer them at a time that suits you.
Yeah.
Because I've always said that all a phone is, when you ring somebody on a phone, you're just saying, stop whatever you're doing now and talk to me. I'm more important than anything you could possibly be doing. And I'm going to keep ringing. I'm ringing your phone. I'm shouting at you to come and talk to me. You don't go do that to people in a normal life in a cafe or something like that. You don't walk up to them and start shouting at them to stop drinking their coffee or whatever they are and talk to you. This is what Google Voice gives you. It gives you that control back to a phone call, which had been lost for many, many years. Well, ever since the phone was invented, really.
Yeah.
It now gives you the control that you have with email to filter out the crap that you don't want to deal with.
Yeah. It is something really special, Google Voice. We've already had several customers who've shown interest. They've got phone systems that are old phone systems. They're not in contract with anybody. They're just carrying on as they've always done. And this is giving them the real opportunity to say, I can connect together like 5 offices now without having to do anything more complicated than say, set me up in G Suite.
Well, this is how powerful Google Voice is, in that we have a client who is a 7-year telephone contract. They've got at least 2 years left on it, and they want out of that contract, and they don't care if they have to carry on paying the contract. They want Google Voice over the contract they've currently got, because the service and the quality is so damn poor with this really big company based in Staffordshire that they are happy to move to Google Voice before their existing contract expires.
Yeah, yeah. I believe this is going to be a real game changer for all of those companies that are already using G Suite or are aware and are open-minded to new technology. I don't think it'll knock at the moment because there's no one else doing anything that's not got Google in front of it doing this. So your Microsoft heads will continue doing what they've always done.
Yeah, using some third-party telecoms provider because they've got no option really.
So I'm not going to say, oh, it's a game changer. It's going to completely change the industry, because it won't. But it will completely change the world of those people who get Google and are prepared to go, okay, I'm switching to Google Voice for my phone system now.
I think it could change the industry if they open it up to consumers as well.
Maybe, James, and that would be a whole different thing, wouldn't it? If it went consumer in the UK, which I understand at the moment it isn't.
They've been promising it since Eric Schmidt announced it back in 2013.
Okay.
I've had a Google alert up since then.
But
now they've got the infrastructure in place. There's a very good chance it's going to come to consumer accounts as well, because it's already that in America.
Yeah, well, if it does. And if you think about it, what does switching to Google Voice bring to one of our customers who wants to do this? What's the big deal? Okay, one thing they get to do is offload that other issue that they've got to think about, which is the telecom system and the phone lines or the SIP trunk or whatever you call it. That's a separate contract. It's a separate company you deal with very often to your IT company. And it's one less thing they've got to do now. That's one less hassle they've got, because they can go, James, can you take care of it? Kyle, yeah, of course. That's it.
You know, there's no charge from Google Voice to Google Voice users.
Okay, yeah, free internal call, so to speak.
Yeah, and there's 1.5 billion Gmail users.
Yeah, it's a lot of people you can phone for nothing, isn't it?
There's a lot of people there that Google Voice can change an industry with if they make it consumer.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which I'm positive they'll do. The one thing with Google Voice, though, that is shit is it's voicemail to email transcription.
You're not allowed to.
It is literally the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what engine they're using, but it's not the engine that every other team in Google uses. Their voice to text is just appalling. It's completely and utterly wrong.
I think
I was asked by somebody if I'd like them to cook the Odyssey for me.
I think I know what they're using.
Nothing.
Chinese whispers.
Chinese whispers, yeah.
17 people sat down and they whisper the message from one to another, and the person who's 17th writes it down.
I reckon that what they're using is, remember when you could buy those old telephone systems that you could run on a computer? So you plug your line into it and you could have a voice to text on a normal computer. So it's back in like in the Windows XP days.
Yes.
And it'll be a bit of software that you run on there. It's about as good as that at the moment.
Yeah, it's dreadful.
It's really odd because, as you know, Google's a big company, so they have lots of teams, and the teams kind of compete against each other. So they've clearly got quite a few teams in Google that are working on voice to text, and the Google Voice team are definitely not winning that battle. The guys who are winning it are actually the Google Meet guys, because we've still got this transcription going on at the moment in real time, and it's been spot on pretty much.
Yes. One thing I have noticed, though, when you swore, it asterisked it out, which was interesting.
That's even better. Shit, shit, shit. Oh, yeah, it does.
Fanny. Didn't get that.
Changes it to funny, which is perfectly fine.
Fuck.
It's going to get that.
Yep. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's kind of.
We'll do the swearing later.
It's kind of put us on the higher than PG list now on Apple iTunes. Thanks for that.
We have to edit it. Bleep me.
I'm not going to bleep it. I don't do bleeping.
Okay.
You just have to re-listen to the whole thing to find out where to bleep.
One thing I thought about with Google Voice, okay, what will it be like, because it runs over data? Will it be any good when I'm walking around or driving? So I tried it. I phoned you, James, recently. I walked up the road where I live, into my Tesco, round my Tesco and back home again, all on a Google Voice call. And it was bang on all the way through. No problems at all. Way better than the mobile signal that I often get. Because when you speak to me and I'm in Shropshire, often I'll lose signal. Because I either go in an old building, which is my house, or I go in the back of Tesco. Doesn't work. It blocks. It doesn't work in the back of the Tesco, but it did on the Voice.
It's great. And we should also point out, with the Google Voice app, it does mean that your end users, your team, you don't need to buy them a phone to use. They can put it on their own mobile phones, and they can use Google Voice, and it will protect their mobile number, so their mobile number won't leak out to people. They can ring from the phone using the line number that you've assigned to them, and they can get calls back on their mobile through that number. So there's no need to have to buy them a separate work phone and a separate number like you do at the moment to get a separate telephone contract. You can just put the Google Voice app on their existing phone, and they're good to go with your business number on their business number.
Yep, absolutely. And it's my intention to do a couple of my walkthroughs that I've started doing now, little video walkthroughs on certain aspects of Google Voice. And no doubt we'll be having a client story coming soon when the first one goes, because as I say, we've got multiple people asking when can they have it. And all we're waiting at the moment is a few T's and C's from Google to enable us to do so, because they're a bit busy with everybody who wants this.
Yep. Well, we've got a hot lead at the moment, so Google are bumping us up their onboarding list for Google Voice, so we'll be able to offer it for people shortly. So
there it is. This week's focus: Google Voice, a telephone system that requires you not to have a telephone system or a telephone support contract or a telecoms provider or any telecom phones on your desks. And that is a joy in life, to have none of those.
Yep.
By the way, if you really do like a phone on your desk, with a cable next to it and everything, you can still have one. As James said, there are certain desktop phones that work with the Google Voice if you love a phone on your desk. But it's
dead easy to set up as well.
Yes.
Unlike your traditional VoIP phones.
Yes. So that's it. That was our focus. Google Voice. We'll be talking more about it. I think it's fabulous. And I've realized now that I'm still in charge of this podcast at the moment, so I now need to go.
That's why I'm keeping quiet and not giving you any hints.
And bring us over to where we talk about what's in the news at the moment. And I saw this one. James is going to start with what's in the news, which is to do with...
I'll let you talk about the first one because I've added both there. So you talk about the first one because it's...
I spotted this as well, James, and I figured I saw it in the BBC News, and it was an article about what the most common passwords are that people use year in, year out. There's always this report. Here it comes again. The same passwords become the most common passwords year in, year out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, QWERTY, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc., etc. The passwords that people use, it's unbelievable, yet these are still the most common passwords in use. And one of our favorite guys, Troy Hunt. Yes, Troy Hunt.
Aussie.
Yeah, the Aussie guy who is your go-to man on all things security basically says that the number one thing between you and the criminals is a good password. And a good password could be 3 words in succession or a phrase. It doesn't have to be a load of gobbledygook characters.
And yeah, how I normally do it when I have to pick three words as a phrase, I just look at what's in the room that I'm in. So I've got a white wall here. So I'm going to use that first part, white. I've got a window in the room. White window. Oh, and I can see some green grass. White window, green grass.
Yeah. And that is an easy password to remember.
But put together, it's very hard to brute force it and break in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And this article was describing how year on year, nothing is changing. People are still using things like password for a password.
Yeah, exactly. It's nuts. And, you know, my strong feelings about it. I believe anyone who's using a weak password or forgets a password or loses a password should in return lose their job. You laugh, but for me, being insecure of a password is no different to being a drunk driver, in that you're being very, very selfish, and that you're caring about yourself, in that you've got a weak password, you've got an easy password because it's easy for you to type in, and you don't really care if you get broken into because, hey, how many times have you spoken to people who said, oh, I don't care if they break in, there's nothing of value in there for them?
Yeah.
Okay, true. There might be nothing of value in there for them, but on you. But inside your email, you've got all the emails and the conversations you've had with your friends and your contacts.
Very true.
And that's where you can start fishing information out of it. Once they're broken into your email account, I can quite happily go and send an email to your friend Sally, pretending I'm you, because I can see how you write emails because I've got access to your sent file. So I can do it in your style. I can send her an email, and maybe it'll be an email. Need some money, Sally. Something's gone on. Or I need access to this site. Can you give me the password? Something along those lines. And you're going to fall for it. Your friends are going to fall for it, and they're going to give me, the attacker, because I've broken into your email account, all the information I need. So that's why it's selfish, because a drunk driver doesn't care about the people they kill or injure. It's all about themselves. Someone who's got weak passwords, it's all about themselves. They don't care about all the other people that are going to be affected. If I break into your Facebook account, I can see your whole family members. I can see all your friends. I can see all your personal stuff that's gone in there that these people have given you. So you've actually got other people's data that you're a custodian, that you're looking after. And by having a weak password, you'll bring all these people in a vulnerable position. Therefore, if it's a business, you should be fired.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm going to agree with you. Sound like I'm Simon Cowell now on Britain's Got Talent. You're right.
Golden buzzer then.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know if you get the buzzer yet. You're right. You're right. The reason you've given is very valid. Stop being so selfish. It's not all about you. I don't know if I'd fire the person who forgets their password. It
depends if it's a repeat offence.
If they're really badly repeat offending, then you need to have a word.
Look, I think if you forgot your password once, depends how long you've had the password for. It depends if it's just a new one that's been set up and it's not actually a password. Maybe it's a temporary password to get into your account. Then there's a bit of a room for negotiation there. But actually, I think a repeat offender, they're constantly repeating it. It doesn't matter how much you talk to them because they don't give a shit. They don't care.
You know, one of the things that makes it difficult for people with passwords now, James, to remember them is, in business that I find, they're scared to write them down. And I believe if you write a password down in a private, if you write it down somewhere that it's not written, here is my Google password, and it's stuck on a Post-it note, it is probably safer in your diary or your handbag or your wallet
Yeah, exactly.
Down and have a decent password written down on a piece of paper.
There's no difference about writing a password down really than keeping it in a password manager. Okay, you know what the password is and you've got it on a piece of paper and someone could run out. But if you don't as you said, if you don't write down what this password's for and you don't keep it in a silly location like sticking post-it notes around your screen and stuff like that, that's more secure than having a weak password.
Yes, because an online password has the whole world has the opportunity to come and try and break it generally.
Yep.
And the one that's in your diary, in your desk at work, well, they got to break into your office first. So there's a lot less people who are likely to do that, if only because of travel limitations. No one's coming from China over to your office to break in and have a look for your password, but online they are.
Exactly.
So you're right. It is selfish to have a weak password because there's no excuse. You can write the thing on a piece of paper and have a complex password.
And it keeps happening because companies are afraid or don't bother disciplining staff for it.
Yeah.
When you think about it, if someone walked into your office, kept walking into your office, an employee, and started smoking indoors, they'd be gone pretty quickly.
How would you change this then, James? What do we do? What do you do culturally to make weak security on passwords as socially unacceptable as drink driving?
Business have to start sacking people for it.
I'm talking in the bigger picture here. Have we just got to keep waiting until someone leads on this?
Well, I am leading on it.
I know.
I'm trying my best to lead on it. It's just calling people out when they've got a bad password, making them. How did you do it with drunk drivers to make it socially unacceptable? You show the damage that they do to other people, right. And that's what it is. You show the innocent people are getting damaged because people aren't securing their passwords.
I think you've given us some food for thought there on that one. I quite like the idea of showing some of that. I think it's an interesting point of view. What else did we have in the news this week that you spotted that you're of interest to you? Something that's very passionate, that's very important to you and to I, podcasts, and a change in the world of podcasts.
Yeah, so I believe that we are currently in the golden period of podcasting, in that there's so many great podcasts out there that you get for free, ad supported. You don't have to pay. You can listen to them whenever you want. They're for free. Spotify recently bought a network. Can't remember what it was. I think it was the Gimlet network for about $250 million. And there's always been $1 million. And there was always a worry that they might start putting a gate around some of that content, so you've got to pay to access it. Well, an app has recently launched called Luminary. It's a $100 million startup. It's given $100 million in funding, and it's a subscription-based app where you pay podcast app, pay $7.99 a month, and you get access to exclusive podcasts that you can't get anywhere else.
Yep.
I'm hoping that this app completely flops and fails, because if it's a success, that means the end of the golden period of podcasting is going to be pretty shortly due. And that more and more people are going to start going, when they call podcasts behind paywalls and things like this, the Netflixes of podcasting. And you're going to have multiple different services with different podcasts on them, and you have to pick and choose what you want to hear. And it's just, I prefer ad-funded free podcasts that I can just listen to.
You know what?
When I want to.
I think you're right. I think this is possibly someone's first foray to become the Netflix of podcasting.
Oh, it is.
What I find different, James, is this. You and I, or a lot of the podcasts that I enjoy are made by people like you and I, people who enjoy a topic or an area and just go ahead and do it themselves with a very small investment on their equipment. It's not cost them a lot of money to do it. You can't do that with television. You can't make Stranger Things unless you can't make Stranger Things without the budget, or any of those shows on Netflix without a budget, but you can make a very, very interesting podcast for very little money. So even if loads of it goes behind paywall, professionally done stuff like Business Wars, which I know is your favorite podcast and one of my favorites, it isn't going to lock out some of the other stuff that I've enjoyed that's done by, you might call enthusiasts or hobbyists.
Yeah, but the problem is when you get Business Wars exclusive on this network, something else you like exclusive on another, that's doubling up your $7.99 each month.
I appreciate that. I understand where you're coming from, and that's happening now in the TV streaming world because Disney's about to go and bring their one out, and so is Apple, and it's starting to battle where you've got to have 4 of them in order to get all the content that you want.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
what I'm saying podcasts is, James, is that there is something in podcasting you don't find in television, and that is that you can break into it with interesting content at a low value. You can't do with TV.
Yeah, personally, I mainly listen to high quality podcasts, so that's why I'm not a subscriber of the Kimbley IT podcast.
I think I mainly listen to hobbyists, but that might be because the things I like to listen to are very niche. Like I wanted to listen to a podcast about Twin Peaks or The Wire or something, or Frasier, and you find there's only about 4 people doing it.
Yeah, I hope this app flops and doesn't take off, because if it does, it's going to be a very sad day for the podcasting industry and podcasting listeners.
Do you think? What's your think? Do you think it will? Do you think people are prepared to pay?
No, I'm hoping that people won't pay. I don't think they're going to. There's no content on there anyway, that they've got exclusive content that I'm interested in. It's a very American focused comedy thing, which we all know American comedy is not that great.
That's a bold statement. America is the producer of some of the greatest sitcoms in history.
Yeah, but you've got Only Fools and Horses here, 40 Towers, Father Ted, The Office. You got so many that are just super quality. Blackadder, can't beat them.
Interesting.
But yeah, hopefully this will flop.
Okay, well, we should wait and see. Watch this space. We shall report back on the progress of this app. It's time for a rant. Do you want to rant about this? I could rant about this, but you've got more hands-on experience than me in recent times to rant about this topic.
Well, as of today.
Yes.
Yeah, Windows 10 updates are still as crap as ever. There's no quality control on them. It's an absolute joke that Microsoft sends them out in the way they do. And I've had enough of it, and I think everyone should go to Chrome OS.
I got a relief from this. Windows updates was something that I used to have to deal with in my previous business a lot around the Windows XP and Windows 7 period. I did loads of it. And they were a faff when to do them, end of the day, when people's computers were starting. It was a bit of a faff, and sometimes they went wrong and caused a bit of a problem. Recently, past Windows 8 into Windows 10 has become a real problem. How many people out there have started their computer and it says updating Windows, and it takes half an hour plus for it to finish all the updates? Because now it does the update on the restart, not on the shutdown.
And the worst part is when it has to do a rollback afterwards.
Yeah, I haven't even got to that yet. The fact that Microsoft has been releasing updates frequently that break Windows.
Well, it's because they got rid of all their quality control.
They stopped doing something because it used to be.
No, it was the quality control. Nadella got rid of the quality control because he wanted to turn Windows into a software as a service, and he wanted to get updates out quicker and quicker. So they made it so that the end user is the quality control now, not the quality control they used to have inside Microsoft. They used to have a whole department based on quality control, and that got rid of to make the end user the quality control. So you've got a couple of rings that you can be on. You've got the insider ring. That's for early adopters who want their computer to be bricked all the time. They go on that one. Then you've got the next ring where your computer will be bricked a bit less often. And then you've got the business ring, which your computer will get bricked about once every 6 months rather than once every 3 months that they currently do if you're on the normal consumer ring. And so that's how they do their testing. They, as you know, they roll out the patches in bundles to a certain percentage of people. If it goes through and not too many computers are being bricked, they'll send it to the next lot, and they'll keep doing that until they've got to their bricking level number that they really want to target. I think they must have a target inside of the amount of computers they want to brick, and then they'll apologize and say, "Oh, sorry, we got that wrong. We're not going to update anymore. We're going to stop the update because we've bricked enough computers." And yeah, this is how you get your computer unbricked, by going to this website and downloading this thing, which you can't do because your computer's bricked anyway. And so you end up reinstalling the whole operating system again and starting over.
And therein lies the real biggest frustration, reloading the operating system. Because most people who run IT support businesses now, they don't have to have their customer close to them like you used to do. You don't have to be within driving distance. You can look after people all over the country, and you do a lot of the time. However, when this kind of problem happens, physically being able to access the machine is really, really helpful, because if you haven't got someone at the other end who can do a couple of simple tasks for you, you're going to have to go there. And that's going to cost you time and money and upset your customer. All of this to upgrade an operating system that really should be like Chrome OS, where you can push a button on it, computer, and it just puts it back to factory start. and everything works.
Yeah, problem with Windows 10 is it's fundamentally flawed, and that's not a possibility because it's just built on top of legacy products.
Well, I didn't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that. I think there's a topic for a whole podcast is the operating system of Windows and Mac OS X dead? Is it a ping of history? Because the point of a computer was that it had loads of things that you could do on it, and you don't need that anymore. All you need to do is connect to the internet.
They're dead, but it's not worth the investment for Microsoft or Apple to update these operating systems because they know that people don't really use the operating system. They use the browser. So they don't want to invest all this money building a brand new operating system from scratch just to run a browser. So they're just bolting on and doing add-ons and updates to try and keep the systems going for as long as possible.
I understand that. Is there an analogy there to like somebody who's trying to keep going with a diesel engined car, and at some point you're going to switch to the Tesla, which is crying out?
It's more likely somebody collects old Mercedes cars and they stick with them for such a long time, and then they move to a Suzuki Swift.
He's mocking me now, people.
But that's the reason why you moved, because you couldn't keep doing stuff on your Mercedes car to keep it reliable and economical. So you therefore had to switch over to a whole new, brand new platform that had been designed for the modern era. A nice small car with all the stuff you need in it that's reliable and is going to carry on working. You can never have turned your Mercedes into the Suzuki Swift.
Agreed. I understand that, James. Yes. I think I see what you're doing there. He's not mocking me now. He's making an analogy.
Yep.
So that's it. Windows 10 rants about that. The updates don't work, haven't worked for ages. They continue to not work. It's a real pain in the backside. You don't need to rant about Foursquare. I think you've had that one.
Yeah, it wasn't really a rant about Foursquare, though. I just put it in there quickly as we just started the podcast and then it popped into my head.
Well, moving towards the end of the podcast now, before we run out of time, we come on to our final part, which we always enjoy, recommendations of things that we're listening to, watching, good software. James, what's been happening in your world of entertainment?
Nothing much. I've been listening to an Audible book called The Silk Roads, and it's not about your favorite drug website.
Okay.
This is about the actual Silk Roads, and it's just the history of the Silk Road. So normally when you're in school, what do they teach you about? They teach you about World War II, World War One, Cold War, some other stuff, the Industrial Revolution, a bit about farming, things like that. But they never teach you about the stuff that actually made information and knowledge travel around the world, which was the Silk Roads. Silk Roads are the trading routes.
So are we talking here Marco Polo and things like that?
Yeah. These are the initial trading routes across the globe, and that's how knowledge was passed on, information got passed on, products and goods were sold. And the whole story is based about the history of the world that you don't hear. So it's kind of a lot of it is around about the Middle East, Asia, those kind of areas, the Roman Empire, and all about the construction and the building of the Silk Roads. And it's stuff you just don't get taught about in school, and it's completely ignored.
Interesting.
If you went to think back when you're at school, and if you look at a atlas of the world, it's only a tiny portion in Europe and a bit of America that you learn about, and you've got this whole eastern side of the world, Russia, Mediterranean, Roman areas, the Middle East, China, Japan, and you don't get taught anything about those guys at all.
Does this documentary series mention the Phoenicians?
This is an audiobook.
Does the audiobook mention the Phoenicians?
I don't think it's got there yet.
Okay.
Mainly about Persians at the moment.
It's likely to get to Phoenicians.
Persian, Greeks, Romans.
Because the Phoenicians were the first to put together the alphabet and use it phonetically in order to create words rather than having individual sounds.
Yeah, well, it's not gone that far back because this is from the Silk Roads. They could already speak by then.
Okay.
That's prehistory, that is. So this is basically from about 400 AD through to probably about 400 BC.
Okay. So yeah, the Phoenicians would have been BC.
Yeah.
Or BCE, as I believe it's now referred to.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is it's not medieval history or anything like that. Well, it might be later on in the book, I don't know for sure. But at the moment, it is just really very early history on the Silk Roads, trading routes.
It's going to be having a 12 and a 13 in it.
It's a massive book, by the way.
Good value for money then.
I've subscribed to audio.
How many hours is the book?
I'm just trying to get that for you.
Because I went on Audible once and found the longest book I could buy.
This is 24 hours and 14 minutes long, this one. I'm only 2 hours 36 into it.
I think
That's chapter 3.
The history of the Third Reich, I have got 48 hours worth in that. Very good book on the history of the Third Reich. It's the longest one on there.
Yep.
Written in 1962. Good
book. Yeah, there's Silk Roads, and the author has recently released this year a new version of the Silk Roads talking about current times and onwards.
Okay.
Well, I've had this book for about probably about 2 to 3 years, but I never really got into it at the start. But I've decided to listen through to it this time, and driving back from Cornwall was a good 3 hours that I could dump into it.
That's a question. When I was going to ask you, when do you listen to audiobooks?
Car and exercising.
Car and exercising.
The problem is when I start listening to an audiobook, I stop listening to podcasts. So I get a massive build up of podcasts because I can't do both at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. That's both the same for me, driving and running when I listen to my stuff. Yeah. I've spent Saturday. I had a quiet Saturday night. I got my girls to bed because it was such a sunny day. They were both exhausted, and they went to bed at 7 o'clock and fell straight asleep, which is like unbelievable for me. Kat went to see her friends for the evening for a bit of a girly night, so I was left to my own devices, James. And I put YouTube on and cast it to my television set, and found myself intrigued. Secrets of the FBI Negotiator come up in the feed. Sounds interesting. So I decided to watch it, and it was fascinating. A guy called Christopher Voss, who was the FBI's #1 hostage negotiator, talks about the secrets of negotiation in business. And it's fascinating. I watched that one. Then I watched several more interviews with him, including one at Google Talk, where he's interviewed at Google. Brilliant. Absolutely fascinating stuff on how to negotiate with people in order to achieve the end that you want. And he has a book that's called Never Split the Difference, and never accept a deal in case there's something better. And some of the things he uses were really interesting, James. And it was about like the Sandler training techniques. It's about how you form a question and how you ask things. And one of the ones was the power of no. Not that you're looking for somebody to say, no, I'm not interested. You're looking for them simply to say no. Would you disagree with that? The likely answer to something is no, because you've not said anything outrageous. You've just said, would you disagree, rather than would you agree? Because would you agree means you need to say yes. You don't feel comfortable saying yes, because yes opens you up to being committed to something, whereas no is defensive. And one of the great ones he puts is, if you're asking somebody for something, you format it like this. Would it be ridiculous of me to ask you to join me? Now, what I've said there, by saying that to you, the thing I'm asking you to do, say, come to my event, isn't ridiculous. I'm not asking you, it's not ridiculous to ask you to come to my event. That's not ridiculous. It may not be convenient, but it's not ridiculous. And so you've got inside their world a little bit, and they've gone, well, that's not ridiculous. And you've put it in a way that the positive answer starts with no, which makes them feel comfortable. So subconsciously, they are dropping their guard and opening themselves. And he uses all of these techniques in negotiation.
Just like I did when I asked you to join Kimbley IT.
Possibly. I can't remember. The hypnotism wore off after a while, so I can't remember. I don't know what happened that night, James. So I said I had a headache the next day, that was all.
Sounds like a good negotiation took place then.
But yes, really interesting, and the website's really good, and I've really got into it. And I've actually used some of the language today on a discovery call with somebody to progress that discovery call one hop down the line, the next hop.
That's good news.
And it showed how it's too quick in negotiation, how you too quickly go from introduction to close, i.e. meet someone and go on a date to can we go to bed and fuck each other. And you don't do that in life generally. You tend to have a stage progression of these things, like spending time with each other, kissing and things. And it's a similar thing to that. That people jump in too quickly with their negotiation and close too quickly. So there you go. FBI hostage negotiations.
Sounds good. It's a YouTube video, you said, Chris Voss.
Yeah, Christopher Voss, VOSS. He'll come up. Many millions of views. Really good. It said Voss on here. It's Voss. VOSS. Not SS. I'm now talking to the auto text on the screen. There you go. It's weird watching that. So that's it. That's the end of the podcast for this week.
was waiting for you to wrap it up. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to see how long it goes for.
I was waiting to see you, waiting to see if I was wrapping it up. I'm wrapping it up. Now, that was a dramatic pause for James there just to make him uncomfortable again. Yes, that's the end of our podcast. If you want to know more about what we do, find us on kimbley.com, on Instagram at that technology guy, for James on Instagram at james.kimbley, and on Twitter for all that political stuff that you love at Jimbo Kimbo on Twitter for James's political views of the world.
Yeah, mine in the vast majority.
I don't disagree with them. You simply post more than I do on Twitter. Following me on Twitter is a fairly lackluster.
I can't hold back on my political stuff on Twitter.
No, you enjoy it very much. Right, well, that's it. Until next week when we'll be back. I think that's a wrap. James, you want to say goodbye?
Okay, goodbye.
Bye, everybody.